The Golden State, land of sunshine. California is where I should be right now, but because of the coronavirus, here we are in California, Norfolk. Yep, Aston Martin have had to cancel the launch of the V8 Vantage Roadster and hold it here in the UK. First world problems, I know, but this could have been the exact car I would have been driving around Rodeo Drive in. It's left-hand drive. It's bright yellow like the sun. It's even got these stupid little nipple things Americans put on the back of their cars for safety. Yeah, right car, wrong location. Cali or no Cali, we've got a bright yellow 125,000 pound Roadster with an Aston Martin badge on the front, so we're going to make the best of a bad situation. Hey, when life gives you lemon coloured cars, you can't help but make lemonade, can you? So, what is it? Well, it's the new version of the baby Aston. About a year ago, they released the new version of the Vantage Coupe, and this is the Roadster edition. And its party piece is this thing just above me. I'll show you how it works. You pull a switch on the door, and within 7 seconds flat, the roof opens, and suddenly, you're in a drop top in California. How you doing, you all right? And then, when you drop the roof, you can enjoy this car's other party trick, which is its amazing exhaust note. So it uses a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8. This California weather is atrocious. Anyways, watch this, right? I'll knock it into neutral. Oh, it just sounds glorious. Constantly sounds like grenades and gunfire going off. Although I do smell a slight rat because I'm not sure if this car is supposed to sound this good. Give me a second. The reason is that US cars, like this one, aren't fitted with a petrol particulate filter and aren't subject to the same 75 decibel noise limits as cars sold in the UK and Europe. So, is this one too good to be true? Right, I always come prepared for eventualities like this. I've got my old sound meter, so let's have a listen. That is clearly in breach of EU regulation Echo Uniform 2014/540, which clearly states that all cars released in the EU must sound terrible. Outrageous. Sports cars sounding fantastic is nothing new, of course, but one thing they aren't always good at is being hospitable, comfortable, and usable every day. But the Roadster is all of those things. The driving position is almost spot on, unlike some Aston Martins of old, the seats are supportive, and the user interface is all borrowed from Mercedes, which is a good thing, but it's not all sunshine and lollipops. So there's a couple of things in this car that I'm not really a massive fan of. The dashboard is full of strange, almost alien-looking shapes. The center console is littered with buttons. I counted well over 30 buttons on this thing. And then the steering wheel, it's not a wheel, it's like a square or a squircle. And then there's other strange quirks about this car. Like, for example, even though it's got a decent amount of storage for your bits and bobs, there's no glove box. Instead, you get this weird little storage compartment just behind you, which is very difficult to access unless you're completely parked up. And then the other big thing for me is that when you got the roof down, even though you're fairly well protected from the elements, okay, I am getting a bit wet right now, it does let quite a lot of wind in. I'm not sure that this wind deflector is actually doing very much. My neck is cold right now. If I was in a Mercedes, I'd have some kind of neck warming device. In an Aston, you kind of left to fend for yourself. Credit where it's due though, the Vantage does have some amazing suspension. It's so well judged. It rides bumps super well. This is the kind of car that you can drive around in, use it as a daily, no sweat whatsoever. And the stereo system is impeccable. Now, if you're the kind of person that likes to drive around with your roof down and your system up, you're gonna love this car because the woofers live directly behind the seats and the bass is out of this world. So, between the stereo and that exhaust, people will hear you coming. But the new Vantage Roadster doesn't need to make sound for it to be noticed because it is unquestionably one of the most stunning cars on the road right now. Sometimes a car can lose its appeal when going from coupe to drop top, but in this, Aston Martin have arguably made it even better looking. It really is a stunning car to look at, isn't it? The general proportions are perfect. There's no other word for it. It looks good almost no matter what angle you take a glance at it from the back, from the side, from the front. Speaking of the front, there's a couple of different grille options. The first is this Hunter grille, which first made an appearance on the Vantage Coupe. Apparently some people weren't that fond of it because of these sticky out carbon fiber bits making it look a bit like a catfish. I can kind of see that, but Aston Martin have given you the option of a vane grille, so that gives you some horizontal slats for a slightly more subtle look. I also love these skinny little headlights, these bonnet vents. These vents at the side here aren't traditional Aston Martin, but they look fantastic, almost like the gills of a shark. Enormous carbon fiber side skirts, these muscular rear haunches, and then at the back, which I think is probably this car's best angle, you've got these lovely curved LED lights, this huge carbon fiber section that includes the rear diffuser that pops out at you almost in 3D. These little nipple things, don't worry about those, they're only for American cars, for their crash regulations. It's the perfect car for cruising around somewhere glamorous like Los Angeles. But if you think Aston Martin have forgotten their roots, don't worry, because in the boot you get A, decent amount of storage space, but B, an Aston Martin branded umbrella, which is perfect for when you end up in a rainy place like the wrong California. Oh, she's lively. All right, forget all of the posing and the brand image and the impressing other people. What's really important is that the Vantage Roadster impresses the driver. And spoiler alert, yeah, it's properly impressive. The star of the show is the engine. That not only makes a hell of a noise, it also makes a hell of a lot of power. 510 horsepower and 685 Newton meters of torque. Now that's good for 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds and a top speed of 190 miles an hour. The eagle-eyed amongst you will probably have noticed that it's the same engine you find in a lot of AMG cars. Yep, Mercedes supply Astons with their engines. And you might have also noticed that in AMG cars, the engines make around 50 horsepower more. Now, you could end up feeling a bit shortchanged by that, but the honest truth is, it really is lively. You don't need the extra power, believe me. There's no point when driving this car that you feel as if you don't have enough grunt. There is so much torque almost anywhere in the rev range. It's brilliant. The engine's connected to an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. The bad news is it's not quite as snappy as the transmission you get in, say, a Porsche 911. But the good news is that the gearbox is nice and smooth. It shuffles up and down the gearbox almost imperceptibly. And around town it's so smooth, it just gets on with the job, no sweat whatsoever. But if you want to take the bull by the horns and get really involved with the shifting, then you can do that. You've got a couple of shifters behind the steering wheel, they're nice and big and tactile, and they're also quite responsive. The other thing you've got to love about this gearbox is the noise that it gets out of the engine, and that exhaust is absolutely tremendous. It just slaps, it really does. It's such a shame that UK and European cars aren't going to make quite the same noise. Traction in the Vantage Roadster is unbelievable. In the dry, it's almost untouchable. You can put your foot down in first gear, second gear, and nail it in a straight line. And part of that is because of the weight distribution. The Roadster now has 51% of the weight at the back and 49% at the front. And having that extra weight on the back end just helps the car squat down and get its power down and catapult it off the line so dramatically. In the wet, slightly different story, because it does struggle to put its power down, especially when you've knocked back the traction control in Sport Plus or in track, or gone full hooligan and turned it off completely.
The Vantage Roadster shouldn't handle quite as well as the coupe. One reason being that when you remove the roof of a car, it loses structural integrity. But the good news is that this drop top doesn't feel massively compromised. It doesn't shake, rattle, or flex in a way that's noticeable or annoying. It feels solid. It's 60 kilograms heavier than the coupe, but it's difficult to get a sense of that weight negatively affecting the car's handling during normal road driving.
The quick word on the brakes. Aston Martin don't provide a carbon ceramic option for this car, but I don't think it needs it, because let's face it, the Vantage Roadster is not the kind of car you're going to end up taking to a racetrack, at least not on a regular basis. And the brakes that it does come with are actually really good. They're super strong, but also tremendously easy to modulate. The first inch or so of brake travel almost does nothing. All it does is scrub a tiny bit of speed off and set the car up for proper braking. And the advantage of having it set up in that way is that around town, the brakes aren't snatchy in the slightest. The way this cabin is designed is brilliant. It's only letting some of the water from the road onto my face. The rest is out there mostly. It's great.
Does the Vantage Roadster stack up as a car you should aspire to own? Well, at £125,000 it's expensive, and dynamically it's perhaps not quite as sharp as say a Porsche 911 Cabriolet, but it's arguably better in several other respects. It looks beautiful, the engine is fabulous, it sounds great, at least with an American exhaust, and having a folding roof that you can operate so rapidly and while you're traveling at speed make it a compelling proposition that ultimately can make anywhere feel like California. Even California.